Hi, welcome to the 12th day of January 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is the Good Life Meditation. My reminder every day of my objectives and principles, and a reflection on how I did yesterday applying these to my life, and a readiness for the coming day. It's a Wednesday. Yesterday was a straightforward day. Not many opportunities to be challenged. Not in this new paradigm of working from home. However, in the evening, I did have a challenge, namely a 5 o'clock ambush by Ikea. Well, not Ikea, but we'll just use Ikea as a placeholder. It was a surprise delivery at about 5:30 p.m. Of a piece of furniture that my wife had lovingly bought for me for my upstairs office area. Really sweet of her to do. Hi, Rudy. And that wasn't the challenge. The challenge was the timing. One, I had a particularly good day of work, and I was beat, tired. And two, it happened just before the thing that I look forward to every day, which is my evening climb of Mount Fortitude. And I knew that if I didn't open the package, and well, I didn't think about it that way. I got the package, and Yumiko was so happy and so excited for me to see it. She had bought this for me, and I was very excited to see it. That I was just heading out. I had walked the dogs. I was just heading out to go to climb Mount Fortitude. And so I immediately put that idea aside. Remember, I'm tired, and when I'm tired, I'm a grump. I'm weak. And I started unpacking the thing, and it turned out it was one of those, packages from hell. A bag full of 40 screws, tiny little Allen wrench, all kinds of pieces, and poorly designed instructions, so hard to figure out. I did a fair middling job of keeping my balance. I decided to follow through with it. I had gotten this far. I decided I decided I will not climb Mount Fortitude last night, and I will work on this thing and carry on. And I deliberately pulled myself out of what would otherwise be kind of a little bit of a funk, right? Having had my plans thwarted, wound up doing something that I don't like, which is assembling furniture from Ikea when I'm already tired and wanted to do something else. And I did it. I'm sure that Yumiko picked up that I was waylaid in a way, and I didn't. That's what I didn't want. I didn't want to show. I didn't want to appear that I didn't appreciate her effort. I certainly do. But I think she also noticed that I pulled myself out of it. And I did that by exercising a couple of principles. Namely, one, the bullseye aim, the recognition that I sometimes miss the mark. Usually I get to climb Mount Fortitude. Every now and then I don't get to climb that mountain. I'll have to go somewhere else, especially if the dogs want to hike with me. Sometimes they usually want to come home. If they want to actually go for it, then Ollie has another trail he wants to take. That's a miss of the mark. So the bullseye aim. This time I completely missed the target altogether. Another was the temperance, tempering my emotional reactions. I didn't get anywhere near the Feast of Offal. That wasn't even close, but still that was on my mind. Apathy. I couldn't really do anything about the poor instructions. Pardon me, and the fact that the metal pieces that made the frame of the item didn't fit very well together. I used my apathy, my recognition of what is not within my control, like I can't do anything about those bad instructions, to then apply apathy. So that was the recognition of what is and what is not within my control. And then maturity. Having been in that type of situation many a time, simply to recognize that that was the case, and to carry on, and then to, again, back to fortitude again, to push myself out of it, not just to get through it, but to lift myself free from that by engaging my wife in conversation about, as I was putting it together, and as she began to help me when she finished her work, engaging her in conversations about the object and other things, which kind of has a way of like traction, and you pull her and the truck gets unstuck from the mud. And it all worked. I think the evening was successfully rescued, and we wound up with a really nice piece of furniture for the office. And I really appreciate what Yumiko did. I also was able to finish yesterday a workly training plan, which I'm very proud of. It's not perfect. It's like a short order or request for eggs and pancakes. You know, they may not be pretty, but they're not burnt at least. Because that's what the sponsor wanted, was speed. And you know, the old triangle: speed, quality, cost. Pick two. Can't have three. Okay, let's get on with the good life. 7 objectives. The first is to be always ready to die. The second is to make good and effective use of time. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions. 5 is to perform good actions. 6, to recognize true limits and true opportunities. And 7, to do one thing slowly. Those are the 7 things that I'm striving for in my days of life. I have 30 principles that help me to get there. The first of these is to always be warring against everything that I hold as true, to never take anything and hold it dear for very long without showing it to the light and looking closely at it repeatedly in different ways, in different light, from different angles, to make sure that it's true. I just mixed my principles, didn't I? Well, actually, that is it. War, but that coincides with the second principle, which is reason, which is the tool that I use for that investigation, and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. So those two go together. So I did kind of mix them up. There's a lot of the principles that I deliberately co-located because they're complementary. Those are 2. Number 3 is the homunculus, the idea of a little mortal that lives inside my head and who will die with me when I'm gone. My consciousness. I don't think I have a soul. I don't think you do either. I think we've each got a little emergent collective sense of ourselves. It's nothing more than a consequence of our brain chemistry. We call that our consciousness. And that will last only as long as we do. And then it's gone forever. That's the homunculus, that consciousness. I give it a name. Next comes the home of good and evil. That's where the homunculus resides, on a rock sticking out of the sea, a vast sea, a dangerous sea. You don't want to fall in. It's infinitely deep, dark and cold, and sometimes it splashes on the rock and makes it slippery, and the tide rises and gets threatening and then recedes. Watch out. And there are others on their rocks. Hi. But that's the best we can do, is semaphore. Shout across the waves, hello, I love you. Next is the home of good and evil. The proposition that right and wrong are simply a catalog of opinions that we hold that are as sensitive to the elements as we are, that will, like chalk written on a rock in the open, be blown away or the wind wash clean. gone with us again. Except if we leave some mark in the world, like if you write a book and then leave that behind, it'll last for a little while, some longer than others. The next principle is called the principle of purpose. I have 3 purpose in my life. These are to be a good husband and father so that I can raise a child into adulthood. That's not the only reason, but it's probably the prime reason, because my biology mandates it. There's something in me that makes that a drive, and I get a lot of fulfillment, and so do most humans, and a sense of completion in having become a father, a parent. At least that's apparent to me. So that's one of my purposes. The second is to live as a virtuous human being, where virtue is seeking the improvement of the well-being of creatures, particularly thinking creatures. And then the last purpose is to pursue some mission in life. My mission has been the experience of my own great life adventure, the writing of the story that came of that, and now the sharing of it, which I do now. That's called a great life adventure as well, by the way. That piece of having the adventure. I'll come to that in a bit. Next is the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, flowing and changing and forever transforming. So too you and me. Just a shorthand way to say that when we die, we're going to dissolve away to nothing. The next is the atomic principle. Well, I just said that one. The next is the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. It's good to keep that in mind and to recognize what that nature is. It's the nature of packages from Ikea, which often be, especially the bigger, more complex ones, to be a bit of a challenge to put together. It's helpful to remember that as soon as I receive the box and start to open it and ready myself. And ready myself for the challenge. Next is the pirate ride, which is a mere proposition that free will is an illusion. No animals, no creatures have free will. We are reaction machines. Although our reactions sometimes become complex enough and seemingly directed by us that we get the impression that we have free will. But in fact, every choice we've ever made in our life, though we were free to make other choices, we would never have made any choice other than the one that we actually did. Strange thing that. And I can't prove it. So I hold this with grave I hold this tentatively. Next is maturity, the principle of maturity, and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we remember our past successes and failures, and are strong in pursuing the first and repeating the latter. The social principle, we are creatures of one another. Human beings need other human beings to be happy, fulfilled, and successful. It's good to remember that and to live accordingly. Next is the public speaking, the principle of public speaking. A reminder to be very careful about what I say, to use few words, to pick my words carefully, to use words that other people will understand, and to never, ever, 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 ever gossip. Where gossip is defined as speech about others that when they're not around, that we would be very embarrassed if they could overhear us saying what we're saying. If we're doing that, then that's gossip. Next comes temperance, our controlled consumption of life, of all things, food and drink and work and play. And there are 3 sub-principles: suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Because we suffer when we deny ourselves what we want. And a simple life is a temperate life. An apathy, where this is the ability to recognize what is not within our control and to not let that bother us. Like yesterday's experience with the Ikea furniture. That was, the universe had simply aligned at that point. I recognized that I was going to put that thing together. And I employed apathy against that fact and enjoyed the evening nonetheless. Next is the horror show. Life is a horror show, chock full of pain and suffering for most creatures, including you and I, to greater or lesser degrees. And I want to remember that so that I can be sober in my living, more sober in my living, but not abject or dejected, and also to work to do something about it. Sally, you want to come up? Next is a principle called that which must be borne. And that which must be borne is the fact of the horror show. And all of the things that are difficult in our life, like the things that we have to do to get by, our jobs, our, the circumstance of our relationships, whatever it may be. And we keep our ship steered in the right direction by keeping our hand on the tiller. That's part of that principle. The next principle is called the Feast of Offal, which is what we do when we get upset over life, when things don't go our way, and we let the whole world know about it and make a scene. And this isn't restricted to us. Those that witness our feast, those that witness what we're doing, tend to be infected themselves, so to speak, and wind up in the end having their own Feast of Offal, so it spreads. So I try not to engage in that by not initiating such feasts on my own, and 2, not consuming the feast of others when it happens. Next is distraction. Is that right? Yeah. Distraction. And there's a second principle there, the great agency and the great indifference. Distraction is what we do in life when we try not to see that the world, the universe is empty behind the scenes, that there appears to be no guidance or oversight, no God creating and guiding things, a universe that seems to not care. That's the next principle there, the great indifference. After that comes the best seat in the house, right here, right now, and who I am and where I am. I try not to want to be anyone else or be doing anything else or be anywhere else, but to be okay in my current circumstances at all times. Tricky thing, that, but it works. Next comes the Path of Wildness, which is a trick that I use to get myself through a stagnant life and into a new life. My life, indeed the life with my wife and I, has been just one transition after another. Keep trying new lives out, like a diner at a buffet, sampling everything, trying to get as much, just because it's fun. The process is fun. The way to But it's tough sometimes because some of us aren't raised that way, and some of us are reluctant to leave the safe and the sane. So to do so, if you have a dream of another life or something else, anything, it doesn't have to be necessarily another life, but another circumstance or job or whatever, which in a way is another life, then begin collecting facts towards the decision, and then reflect on those facts. And if you need more time, give yourself more time. But don't do that forever, because it's easy to spend your whole life just gathering, collect, and thinking. Eventually make a decision. And if you're not sure still, then lean in with your gut feeling. What was your first impression? And maybe go with that, keeping in mind that there are no guarantees. It could be a very bad decision, but at least you're moving forward. At least you're heading into new life, new territory. Next is the risk of avoiding risk. Life has deep level risks and surface level risks. The deep stuff is the challenge of pursuing whatever it is that you're curious about in life, becoming the man or woman that you want to be. That's a tough thing to do, especially because we're typically not well supported in that endeavor. A few families encourage you to find yourself. Most of them encourage their family members to go to school and get a job and find a spouse and get married and have kids and save for retirement and give us some grandkids along the way. That's fine. Back to the principle of purpose, the kids and stuff. But it's a trick to do both, to attend to that surface level stuff, the house, the family, the mortgage, the job, the kids, the grandkids, etc., and the deep stuff. It can be done though. And the best strategy that I've so far found is to attend to the deep stuff early, like in our 20s. After high school, go to college, get a degree, and then from there, off you go into the world until age 30, and then come back with your great life adventure complete, and then settle down to the safe and sane. That's just my strategy, my recommended strategy, if you want to attempt both. Next is sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview. See, I added one back. These are falsity, being false, telling lies, being untruthful, credulity, an overeagerness to believe things that without good justification, hope, just wanting without acting, faith, which is belief where the simple mere act of belief is evidence to support the belief, which is for phantom evidence. Superstition, a category of things believed which are almost recognized in society as being nonsense by virtue of their living in that category of superstition. Dogma, believing things because there's a big book that says so, or an old writing that says so, or it's just part of the canon. That's just the way it's always been done, which is kind of like tradition. And then authority, believing something because the person who proposes it appears convincing. The only thing that really should convince is a good peer review. Consensus of those who have performed peer review. Scientific peer review, basically. And then the last sin is, that's not a sin. I'm just talking about what is better than better than that. Scientific peer review is the opposite of dogma and authority, although it can contain elements of that, and watch out for it. That's why it has to be done well. And then the last sin is gossip, which I already talked about. Bad thing, gossip. Ooh, so easy to do. So such a great distraction and a way to fill the time, huh? keep back the great indifference by talking about the neighbors. The next one is complete oblivion. When we're dead, we're going to be gone forever. No chance to have reunion with anybody anyone who dies or who died before us or will follow, because none of us will be there to have any reunion with. As a result, we can't reconcile any differences if we left on bad terms. And there will be no justice meted out in the afterlife without an afterlife. So, complete oblivion. It's waiting for all of us. And it's not even waiting. It's just an emptiness, an absence, a void of where we used to be. Filled in by everything else. Ultimately, filled in with entropy, confusion, and chaos and disorder. The very thing that we strive against. The very thing that we don't want. Is going to be what it'll all be in the end. At least that's what the current models seem to suggest and predict. After a complete oblivion comes the great life adventure. One or more activities or experiences in life that become the seat and focus of our life story. For me, it was, sorry for the third time to pull out the book, available on Amazon or by my website, goingalone.org. My great life adventure was the experience of going alone into the deep wilderness and finding the emptiness out there, and then reconciling my life with that fact and creating this good life creed. That backs into the next principle, which is the season of philosophy, a time to record our story. The key thing there is to get it down while the words are coming, because the muse that whispers in our ear tends to go silent quickly. Better write quick. Next comes the bullseye aim. We strive for the mark and we usually miss, and that's all right. Life is a continual effort and adjustment. I'll talk about that in just a second, about my coming day. I'm almost done with the principles. The uphill climb is next. Life is a steady climb upward and upward. Some settle at the lower slopes. It's comfortable, safe, and warm. The view kind of sucks. Those that climb high often can be treated to an extraordinary vista. To what end? Not really sure, other than the satisfaction in and of itself and the adventure. I prefer to climb. To travel light. Arena and utility is next. Life is an arena for the development and execution of our objectives and principles. Nothing is enough. This principle is just a reminder that we can often do better with less. Pardon me. And then finally, the last principle is the principle of fun. See how I try to smile? I'm trying to have fun, Gert. I added this one recently. It's actually the most recent principle, I think, which is a reminder to not take life so seriously all the damn time, but to just enjoy times as well. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the day. I promised to bring back talk about the bullseye aim. One of the things that I'm working on for one of my projects at work is a document that will satisfy a particular need. I don't need to get into specifics. And I realized yesterday that there's the mark, there's the aim, striving for the mark. And I really worked hard on this document, but I've missed the mark, and I got to remember that that's to be expected. The thing that I can do in the next coming days, including a meeting today, is to work towards and get the team's help aligning towards the mark as close as possible. Maybe I won't quite make it, especially given, remember, the triangle of time, quality, and speed. Right? In this case, we chose speed and cost, speed, and quality. We chose speed and cost savings, so quality suffers. So gotta remember that, and so tune to the mark. So other than that, it's going to be another straightforward day, as just about all my days are these days, particularly with regard to work. I've got in my mind, the back of my mind, what am I going to do about tomorrow? Shall I go to Siberia tomorrow? Part of me doesn't want to go. Most of me doesn't want to go, mostly because it's scary and hard. And I'm also thinking I'm trying to back out of that dark desert that tends to be kind of a downer. As important, as stimulating as it is, the muse lives out there. But I'd like to rise into a more of an enjoyable life. Although that's kind of boring. that dark exploration is so much more interesting to me. Although it's hard to get away from the dark funk. Will I go? I guess that'll all depend on when I take the dogs out for a walk just now. I think it's about 45 degrees outside. How cold will that be in the desert? It's going to be the exact same temperature in Siberia as it is here tomorrow and today. It is right now. That'll probably make my mind. If I don't go, I'll maybe do something else. We'll see. Those days may be done. If I can pull this off. If I want to pull it off. If I should. And with that, let's stop for the day. Thanks for joining me. Have a good day. Make it a good life. And remember to be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye.